Hi all, a new day and new stories from Ocean Story. Just listen to this story. In my 65th year, I realized that I was different from my 36-year-old daughter, not only in age, but also in attitude. The blame for our breakup lay with me, for I had believed my narcissistic ex-wife, who convinced me that our daughter was the problem. However, when I finally saw the light, I realized that my wife was actually the source of all the trouble. In my pursuit of peace, I compromised for a long time, but eventually mustered up the courage to end this harmful relationship. I admit, in my efforts to get my daughter back, I allowed myself to be rude and even intimidated her, but that all changed when she sought legal help. Now, having realized my mistake, I sincerely wish to make amends. She has left, but I hope to rebuild our relationship, because now I see things in their true light and realize my previous blindness and injustice. In trying to reconnect with my daughter, I am faced with difficult choices. Her location, hidden for years, was discovered in a neighboring state. My heart burned with the desire to act as tactfully as possible so as not to violate her boundaries, which she had made clear in the past. The decision to leave a note with the concierge suggesting a meeting at a neighboring hotel was motivated by the hope of a chance to explain myself and make amends for the years of separation. I wanted to use this chance to show her that I was divorced and ready to make a fresh start, respecting her space and wishes. My actions, although coming from a desire to repair our relationship, could have been perceived as an invasion of her privacy, especially since she had previously asked me to leave her alone. This realization made me think about the importance of respecting her boundaries and that truly understanding and accepting her choices is key to a possible reconciliation. Thus, I became faced with a dilemma between the desire to right past wrongs and the need to respect her desire to live independently. In this search for the way to her heart, I realized that true understanding and respect for her choices could be the basis for renewing our connection, even if it meant giving her the space and time she demands. Attempting to invade my daughter's personal space by leaving a note through doorman and wanting to discuss our separation is certainly a direct violation of her boundaries. My desire for reconciliation, despite clear signs of her desire to put the past behind her, underscores my unwillingness to recognize my own mistakes and learn from them. Blaming my ex-spouse for the demise of my relationship with my daughter only confirms my lack of understanding of the basics of responsibility and mutual respect in personal relationships. Instead of looking inside myself and understanding my role in this conflict, I chose the path of blaming and abdicating responsibility. This is a reflection of my inability to deal with my own emotions and conflicts. My behavior, which culminated in stalking my daughter even after she expressed a desire to sever all contact, is a clear indication of my lack of respect for her boundaries. Attempts to interfere in her life, especially after a legal warning to cease and desist, only exacerbate the situation by making my actions unacceptable and intrusive. In this realization of my mistakes and wrong actions lies the key to possible healing, the need to respect my daughter's wishes and give her the space she demands. I should step back and consider going to therapy to work out my own issues and learn to respect the boundaries of others. Only through working on myself and genuinely respecting my daughter's wishes can I hope to be able to repair our relationship without invading her life uninvited. After a year of therapy, when the specialist confirms my readiness to repair the relationship, the next step will be to contact my daughter's attorney. I will provide him with all the necessary information and allow him to make contact with my daughter on my behalf to see if she is open to receiving my letter expressing all that I have learned about myself and my mistakes. This approach respects her boundaries and desires, emphasizing my willingness to recognize her autonomy and her right to choose. If the answer is no, I will accept it respectfully, recognizing that the best way to make amends is to respect her desire to remain distant. In that case, I will step back, leaving her wants and needs at the center of my thinking about how to be a better father, even if it means keeping my distance. Next story. My son was going through his tumultuous teenage years when his father, a young man related by blood to my cousin, passed away. I was 28 at the time, and I felt the weight of guilt and the consequences of my own actions that had alienated me from the support of my family. This became my test, my karma, forcing me to rethink the connections and relationships within my family. As my son grew older, relatives who had previously shown no interest in him began to actively interfere in his life, blaming me for his failures and claiming that I was hindering his development. They tried to undermine our bond by spreading the view that I was to blame for my son's fatherlessness and that I was an obstacle to his athletic career. Despite my efforts to stop these attacks and preserve my son's sanity, they continued to claim that they were only telling him the truth. I tried to limit their exposure to him, but faced threats from his parents to withdraw our financial support for his athletic needs. This forced me to seek additional work to make up for the potential losses. However, despite my best efforts, my son continued to meet with them in secret, attracted by promises of expensive sports equipment. When I found out about this, my anger reached a breaking point. After I put my son to bed, I rushed to my parents' house and, giving vent to my anger, threw the sports equipment they had bought at them, thus trying to protect our future and parental dignity. Before I found the strength to express everything that had accumulated in my soul, I was confronted with the need to defend my right not to be held hostage to a mistake I made 10 years ago. As I was preparing for a frank conversation, my mother, like a dagger in my heart, recalled how my actions had destroyed her ties with her family. She claimed that the consequences of my actions had been an ordeal of unprecedented severity for her, surpassing anything I had faced. My father, not to be outdone in severity, predicted that I would face harsh consequences from my own son for the sports equipment taken from him, insinuating that I had put my pride above his dreams. In response to their rebuke, I erupted, saying that words about consequences had lost all meaning to me and that their accusations only sounded like meaningless noise in my ears. This sparked a storm of indignation from my parents, who claimed that my behavior was not doing me any good, thus highlighting the reason for my isolation and lack of support. The situation came to a head when I was kicked out of the house, after which my older sister started calling me to express her resentment at my unwillingness to learn from past mistakes and my continued disrespect for the family, especially our parents. Her words, full of reproach and frustration, were yet another reminder of the deep rift that my actions and words had caused in our family circle. Did I really deserve to be branded a bad guy, or was it just a fatal mistake of youth that made me a target for unfair accusations? Contradictions war in my heart. I recognize my blunders, but I can't reconcile how easily my mistake is being turned into a weapon of manipulation aimed at my son, undermining his peace of mind. Honesty demands that I recognize that what I did was undoubtedly far from ideal, but I can't help but marvel at the fact that growing up among these people, I still managed to retain a modicum of moral compass. It is paradoxical, but it seems that I am the one who, in spite of everything, is the only one who is guided by that compass in our family circle. I am grateful for this recognition, even though my actions leave much to be desired. My entry into family drama, though controversial, does not make me the perpetrator of all the woes. The relationship was complicated, and the cheating, though not an excuse, was just one of many events in a chain of mutual resentment. The double standard is striking. My youth and inexperience are dismissed, while the adults involved in the story are beyond reproach. It is no wonder that the thought of breaking up with my family or refusing burdensome gifts seems the only reasonable way out of a situation where fairness and understanding give way to resentment and prejudiced judgment. Now I want to tell a different story. In the 27th week of my pregnancy, I, a 27-year-old woman, together with my 30-year-old husband, whom I have loved for 7 years, face an unexpected twist in our path to parenthood. Facing a high-risk situation due to placenta previa, I resigned myself to the need for a planned C-section, moving away from long-held dreams of a natural birth. This ordeal re-emphasized my desire to ensure the health of my unborn child and my own well-being above all else. My story is intertwined with the lives of those close to me, my younger brother, his girlfriend, and their young son, whose birth during their school years added to their worries, but also to their joy. Their experiences remind me of the diversity of life's paths and the commonality of the challenges of a new life. The support of my sister-in-law, Carrie, who has become not just a relative, but a source of wisdom and understanding, has been especially valuable during this important time in life. At a family gathering where my husband and I shared news of our future child, I found comfort and support in conversations with Carrie. We discussed not only the day-to-day, but also the deep feelings surrounding my pregnancy, affirming the invaluable role of close relationships and understanding in overcoming life's challenges. My young nephew, a grammar school student, approached me with innocent curiosity, examining the changes in my body. His childish question about the cause of my increase in size, accompanied by genuine interest in my pregnant belly, filled the moment with touching naivete. I gently took his hands in mine, explaining that a new life was growing inside me, his future cousin, inviting his gentle touch. At the same time, I bracketed my worries about the need for bed rest due to my condition, wanting to keep this interaction light and joyful. Suddenly, however, the moment of peace was broken by the unexpected action of my nephew, who, as if testing his newfound strength, kicked me in the stomach. This act prompted an immediate reaction from Carrie and me, as we sternly but fairly reminded him of the importance of treating others with respect and especially the inadmissibility of such actions. The nephew, realizing his mistake, apologized but soon backed off, leaving behind questions and reflections. The situation escalated when the boy's mother, upon learning of the incident, came to me for an explanation. Her concern about her son's reaction to my perceived anger culminated in a conversation in which I tried to explain what had happened in the light of all the circumstances. My inner bewilderment about my nephew's lack of discipline in raising my nephew and his behavior, which always seemed to go without consequence, made me think about the complexity of family relationships and parenting where boundaries and rules play a key role. I, trying to remain calm and friendly, approached my nephew's mother. My words, filled with apologies for possible misunderstandings, were at the same time a firm reminder that actions such as hitting me or anyone else would not be tolerated. Her reaction, expressed in a skeptical gesture and a silent walk away, only emphasized the gulf between our views on parenting and responsibility. An hour later, when the time for parting finally arrived, I approached my brother to say goodbye, but was met with an unanticipated repetition of the previous incident. My nephew, as if forgetting his recent lessons, hit me again, causing me to bend over in unexpected pain. My husband, assuming the role of protector, got into a verbal altercation with the child's mother, which led to a loud argument between him and my brother in front of the whole family, dividing it into two camps. This event revealed deep divisions in the understanding of discipline and parenting, sparking a wave of resentment and accusations. While my husband might have acted differently, there is no denying that the child did, indeed, overstep his boundaries by repeatedly attacking me. Such behavior, especially against a pregnant woman, is unacceptable and requires immediate parental intervention to prevent further aggression, both within the family and in the social environment. This incident highlights the importance of early education and setting behavioral boundaries in children, especially when it comes to showing affection and respect to others. The need to teach a child the basic principles of interaction is evident, as is the need for parents to take responsibility for their child's behavior in order to prevent possible negative consequences for their future communication and socialization. My next story. In the labyrinth of our years together, I, a 33-year-old man, and my 27-year-old life partner have traveled from long months of separation to the warm intimacy of a single home. In the early days of our relationship, separated by the miles between us, I endeavored to bridge the distance with floral messages from Florida, creating bridges of pink petals to remind her of my presence in her life. Moving under the same roof turned a page in our history, pushing the flower-giving habit to the back burner. For now, we shared every day together, and my physical closeness was meant to be a reminder of my feelings. However, as Christmas brought our home to life with new decorations, I found that flowers continued to find their way into our decor, now initiated by her. Changing floral arrangements became a ritual of sorts, marking a quiet protest against my unwitting omission. The question about the roses, now bought by her herself, was a revelation to me. She confessed a love for flowers that had not diminished even when I had ceased to be their mediator. It awakened in me the realization that little things that seemed insignificant against the background of our seemingly uninterrupted intimacy remained important symbols of care and attention to her. The lack of flowers was not a complaint or reproach, but rather a quiet reminder that even in the everyday, it was important to maintain the language of love and attention that had been between us from the beginning. In the back of my mind, that moment when she enriched our shared home with a dozen self-purchased roses awakened a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions in me. The gesture seemed to carry a hidden message, a subtle hint that the world of flowers I had once created for her now lay in her own hands. Though I remained silent, my thoughts were full of questions and doubts, making me feel as if she were expressing her displeasure not in words, but in actions, quietly pointing out the invisible lapses in our communication. Every step toward the kitchen reminded me of these unspoken grievances, the feeling that every glance at those flowers put me in the place of an insufficiently attentive partner. An inner voice fought the idea that my actions, or lack thereof, could be construed as neglect or indifference, leading her to create her own world of beauty without my input. However, as I reflected on this, I realized that not every action should be interpreted as an implicit criticism or accusation. Perhaps her decision to buy the flowers herself was not an attempted reproach, but simply a desire to surround herself with the beauty she appreciates, regardless of my involvement in the process. My inner turmoil and guilt at no longer being the source of that beauty should have given way to the realization that in a relationship it is important not only to give, but to allow the other to create happiness on their own. In this story, it wasn't her fault for her desire to enjoy the flowers. Rather, I became hostage to my own assumptions and unwarranted resentments. Instead of seeing her actions as passive aggression, I should have seen the manifestation of her individuality and desire to bring elements of beauty to our shared household that make her happy. This realization was a reminder to me that in a relationship it is not only important to share space and actions together, but also to respect everyone's personal space and self-expression. A story that really surprised me. My almost grown son won $1,500 at an online casino after getting involved in gambling after watching streamers. He had to claim he was over 18 to gamble. Upon learning of this, I, as a parent, decided to intervene, fearing that the easy winnings could push him into addiction. I confiscated the winnings, though not because of my son's age, but to emphasize the risks of gambling. My wife thinks my reaction was too harsh. She would have preferred a discussion of responsibility instead of confiscating the money. My son, on the other hand, is upset and feels deprived, even though he stopped playing and self-excluded himself from the game. I now question my decision. Should I have taken the winnings to point out the dangers, or should I have returned them when the son reached adulthood, thus emphasizing the importance of following the law? Reflecting on the possible perception of my action as a lesson that forfeiture can be justified, I am looking for a balance between fostering respect for the law and supporting my son in learning life lessons. Idiocy is certainly not a judgment call, but don't be surprised if the openness between you and your child goes away like smoke. That thin thread of trust that bound you together may break forever, leaving only disappointment in your child's eyes. Gambling, it is certainly evil, devouring souls and wallets, but when it comes to interfering in the choice of your son, it is worth remembering that freedom of choice, it is his right as an adult individual. The possibility of your son facing problems because of gambling, along with the potential difficulties for you as a parent, is certainly alarming. Thinking about confiscating winnings as a way to protect yourself may seem like a rational solution, but don't forget that this money belongs to him, despite all the concerns. So how do you get lost in the maze of parental concern, forgetting that your son is on the cusp of adulthood? In just a few days, he will have the right to decide for himself how to live his life, and your words may mean nothing to him if he so chooses. It's time to stop seeing him as a child to be treated childishly. It's time for a heart-to-heart conversation, for agreements and compromises. Stop and listen to him, validate his feelings. This could be the cornerstone that strengthens your rapport, or by ignoring his opinions and feelings, you risk losing his trust forever.